What's up, friends? Welcome in to Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City. With Dan Courtwright, I'm Sean Kellerman. Got a fun show for you today. We are ecstatic after that beatdown of number 2 Iowa State last night. We're going to be talking about that here in the opening segment. 84-63. I, alongside the man who once said, there's a chance Kansas can go 1-5 in the Big 12 in their first 6 games.
This is. Say that.
Have you watched Bill Self coach basketball for the last 20 plus years at the University of Kansas?
I know. It's look, betting against Coach Self is like betting against Patrick Mahomes. It's just you just can't do it. And Kansas right now, they're 2-2, and they just beat the number 2 team in the nation, Iowa State, by 21 points.
I was there. It was fun.
Man, that's unbelievable. That not at all how I thought the game was going to go. I was being a little bit pessimistic.
Exactly
just
how I thought the game was going to go.
Mood.
I'm wrong more
21?
often than not, but I did say that we were going to whip that blank.
Yeah. You said
to multiple people. I was puffing my chest out in the media room.
I just think we're going to blow them out. And I was like, I thought you were kidding.
I just had a feeling. I don't know, but they answered the bell, and God, it looked like a different team last night. Going to get into that here in the open. Next segment, depending on the timing of the California Kid, we will either have Henry Greenstein, KUSports.com, LJWorld.com, or we will hear from some KU players at the podium, Darryn Peterson, as well as Trey White. We're at the podium after the victory. We'll hear from those guys this hour. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, KU Mailbag segment, we are live, Rock Chalk Sports live in the Kansas Nation studios. And by the people, for the people, you can still send in your questions, comments.
Right.
Twitter at the Kansas Nation.
Yeah, go ahead and send us any questions you have, food, dating advice, whatever it may be. Send us any questions that comes to mind, anything, on Twitter at the Kansas Nation or on Facebook as well. I went ahead and put the prompt out there also. So got a lot of good stuff from a lot of different fans out there. But if you have any more questions, feel free to hit us up on Twitter and on Facebook at the Kansas Nation.
All right, after the KU Mailbag segment, we're going to hear from that Hall of Fame head basketball coach that we were just discussing, Bill Self, at the podium post-game. And then to close out the show, we are going to hear from an opposing coach. We don't do this too often, but some interesting comments, very respectful comments from Iowa State's TJ Otzelberger, as well as Milan Momcilovic. They were at the podium post-game after the beatdown of KU and Iowa State, plus some college basketball game picks for tonight. Dan's going to be locked in to K-State UCF. In all reality, I will probably be watching K-State UCF. You will probably be watching a documentary.
I'll be watching the KU women's game.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Kansas women need this one tonight against Oklahoma State.
They certainly do. The last few Big 12 games have not gone their way. Now, granted, you know, Reagan's been out, and Samaya gets dinged up from time to time. Jalea is probably back to 100%. You need more stuff from, you know, your bench as well as your other players like Libby and Keeley and those kind of girls. But yeah, they need this one. They need this one bad. And if you don't have your tickets yet, go to KUathletics.com and get your tickets, or just go to the ticket office at Allen Fieldhouse and buy your tickets there. Go support your Lady Jayhawks.
6:30 tonight. You can, of course, watch that on ESPN Plus. Josh Klingler play-by-play, or you can listen on the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield with Stephen Davis and David Lawrence. The Kansas women against Oklahoma State. All right, we're going to get into this, but first, Dan, tell us about Crown Automotive over on South Iowa and Lawrence, our first partners here at Kansas Nation.
I'd love to tell you about Crown Automotive. They have a whole line of new and used Toyotas and Volkswagens, Taos models, Tiguans, Camrys, you name it, they've got it. Toyota and Volkswagens, two of the best cars that you can buy. So get them here in Lawrence. I believe they're 5-time winners of a Carfax Award, I believe. So go check them out. Friendliest service in town. They will make sure to get you in the car that fits your lifestyle. And if you don't want a Toyota or a Volkswagen, I don't know why you wouldn't, but in case you don't want it, they have a bunch of used cars as well. So go and check them out, crownautomotive.com.
Miles Schnare and his team will make you feel comfortable. And, hey, tell them that the guys over at Kansas Nation sent you. As they get you in the vehicle that you need. Man, where to start with this game last night? A lot of fun over on Naismith Drive, 84-63. I was just kind of taking everything in as I do every game. I make a point during the pregame video, the introductions, to just put my computer down, put my phone down, and just take everything in. And just a special night. And as I said in the Crimson and Blue show yesterday, there's 4 or 5 games in the 16, 17, 18 games, however many Kansas plays at Allen Fieldhouse every year, that you just know there's going to be an extra buzz. And last night, of course, was one of those. Not just because it was the number 2 team in the country coming in, but because Kansas was realistically needing to play with a sense of desperation. And that's what we saw last night. A desperate team competing every possession. Hawks win by 21. They got up by as many as 26. It was 42-16 following a Melvin Council 3, an absolute drubbing. With the win, Kansas is 12-5, 2-2 in conference play. And I kind of was joking with David Lawrence postgame because we talk so much about fans being fanatics, and your lows are so low and your highs are so high, right? Yeah. And I said to him, this is after the Jayhawk locker room show. We were hitting the John and then heading out. I said, isn't it crazy how on Saturday when we lost to West Virginia, we were the worst team in the world, and now we're the best team in the world?
Yeah, I know. You beat the number 2 team in the nation by 21 points.
What a difference a span of a few days makes. But realistically, KU probably somewhere in between. But what a statement made by the Jayhawks, the fact that they can go out and they can not only compete, but beat down some teams that are viewed as top tier in the country. And you got to feel good about how this team can hopefully continue to improve and build off that from a confidence standpoint. I'll let you give your take, but of all the ridiculous stats that Bill Self has during his time as a head coach, time here at Kansas, AP top 2 team comes to Allen Fieldhouse. Those AP top 2 teams are 0-5 against Kansas and Coach Self. Incredible stuff from the GOAT.
Well, Iowa State now, when they're ranked and playing at Allen Fieldhouse, they are 0-8. They have not won a single game in Allen Fieldhouse while they were a ranked team. This is the first time, by the way, Kansas hosted a ranked team while they were unranked since 1989.
Crazy.
So pretty insane, and it's pretty insane that Kansas came out and beat them by 21. Like I said, I still am riding this high. I still cannot believe the fact that Kansas wound up winning this game by this much. And you kind of started at the beginning, right? And I know you had said it beforehand. You said, I just think they're going to blow them out. And like I said, I thought you were screwing with me. But then you felt it. Kansas, all of a sudden, you see Bryson started off with a nice little dump in. All of a sudden, Bryson gets another one. Flory gets 2 dunks right away. All of a sudden, Kansas is up 6-0. All of a sudden, it's 8-2, I believe, is what it was. All of a sudden, Kansas is up 11-3. And you're thinking, this is exactly what Kansas needed. The Kansas needed to start off strong and then maintain it. And then hopefully they can keep that lead or somewhere around that lead in order to stay in this game. And Kansas just didn't take their foot off the gas. And I think you saw it on the defensive end of the ball. I think you saw it on the 50-50 balls. And we'll hear from Bill Self talk about the El Marco Jackson, where he dove on the floor to get the ball, pass it over to Jamari, I believe, or maybe it was Melvin. Melvin threw it over to Trey White, hit a 3, and that took Kansas up by a lot. And it was a giant momentum swing, and just the effort was different. And there's a couple of different things I wanted to kind of pinpoint on this, but number one, the defense was unbelievable. And I think we talked a little bit about this off air, about how Kansas didn't switch 5 consistently. They switched some. There was still some switching going on. I don't think they switched 5 nearly as often as they typically did, especially in the first few games of Big 12 play. But the hedging was there, and I think that they were getting in those passing lanes. And you saw Darryn Peterson a few times coming over and helping and trying to swipe away from the ball, and you saw the effort was there on the defensive end. You saw the rim protection there. Now, rebounding could be a lot better, but Kansas was one of the worst teams in terms of turnovers. Kansas forced a ton of turnovers against a really good ball handling, really good ball movement offense like Iowa State. They're a top 12 offense in KenPom. Kansas completely shut them down. And they didn't even let Milan Momcilovic get a shot up until you said what it was. They didn't let him get a shot up. To me, it felt a little bit like the game plan was let everybody else shoot except for Milan Momcilovic, because obviously super high release and shooting upwards of 55% from the three-point line, which is just in a different stratosphere. So they're playing really hard defense on Milan, kind of letting everybody else shoot, but also playing really hard in those passing lanes as well. So on the defensive end of the ball, I think was really the biggest improvement. And we talked a lot about the bigs and how the bigs need to play better and the bigs need to stop playing soft. And I thought they played a fantastic game. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, Bill Self had said this too, and I had mentioned this to you at halftime. This is the first time that we've seen the 2 different styles of offense blend into one. Because when you look at this Kansas team I'm going to split it in two. With Darryn Peterson and without Darryn Peterson. Without Darryn Peterson, it very much was a ball on the ground, drive first, collapse the defense, kick out, ball movement, post feeds. You're attacking the rim. You're being aggressive. With Darryn Peterson, it was very much you're settling for shots. You're sticking, right? You're kind of letting the defense come to you. You're not getting that ball movement. This is the first time that we've seen the two blend where all of a sudden you're seeing the aggressiveness. You're seeing the attacks on the offensive side of the ball from Melvin Council, from guys like Jamari McDowell, who had a fantastic game, hit 2 gigantic threes in this game. You're seeing, the different off-ball movement, off-ball screens, different things like that. Then you were used to seeing when Darryn Peterson is out there, because I truly believe at the beginning of conference play, whenever Darryn Peterson was out there, all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, DP's out there. Let's kind of slouch back and let him do his thing. And yeah, we can stick because we'll let DP do it. They're forcing the ball through Darryn. Now they're figuring out how to play with Darryn and play their style of basketball with him as an accessory piece.
So many things to get into. To get back to the game itself, I thought Momcilovic not getting a shot up until the under 12 timeout was absolutely key.
That was what, under 12. Yeah.
I had said yesterday that I think he's the key to their offense, and then he actually went out with some foul trouble. It was to the point, though, at the under 8 timeout, after Momcilovic had been out for a little bit, that Otzelberger had to put him back in because the score was so lopsided. Yeah. But without him out there, Iowa State just not the same team. They're really not. And they have some good other pieces. Nate Heise hit a couple threes. Jamarion Bateman had a really nice game. He had 4 steals and certainly got some numbers there late. And we know that Killian Torrey can score as well, in addition to the two guys of Lipsy and Jefferson. But Momcilovic requires so much. Kansas did a great job on him. He would come in. Actually, before he went out, he hit a guarded 3 to make it 20-12. Some of those, it's just a good player being a good player. But Kansas, I thought, looked completely different in terms of competing every possession. I mean, against TCU, UCF, West Virginia, those teams were comfortable. They could score. Iowa State looked terrible last night. And that's because Kansas was competing. They were in their grill consistently. Iowa State had 4 turnovers before the first media timeout. They had 6 turnovers in the first 6 minutes of gameplay. And Kansas, just like you said, put their foot on the gas and kept it there. Kansas had a 9-0 run to make it 31-14. That's when Momcilovic had to re-enter the game despite having those 2 fouls. It was 31-16, and then Kansas went on an 8-0 run. So Kansas, in that stretch, had a 17-2 run to make it 39-16. Then Council hit a 3. It was a 20-2 run. Sound kind of familiar? That's what teams had been doing to Kansas the last couple of games, but it was KU getting the separation, and by the way, it was a 42-16 run as well, as it was 42-16 in favor of Kansas. There was a little bit of shakiness toward the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, as Iowa State, across the 2 halves, went on a 9-0 run, got the last 5 of the first half, and then the first 4 of the second half, and it made it 44-27. Still a comfortable lead for Kansas. Most annoyed the Fieldhouse was last night was when Trey White hits a 3 after Torrey had been injured in some way. Yeah. And for some reason, right before the shot went up, the official said, let's stop gameplay. But I loved what Darryn Peterson did then. As KU got to keep possession but didn't get credit for the 3, Peterson said, all right, I'll get the 3 right back. And hit the 3 in the face of Joshua Jefferson to make it 47-27. I thought Iowa State had a couple opportunities to really make Kansas sweat this one out. 2 opportunities, down 11 to cut it to 9 or 8, and they missed shots. They also had 2 missed free throws at the under 12 of the second half that could have made it 58-46, but Jefferson missed them both. And then Jamari McDowell hit a huge end-of-clock 3 to make it 61-44. That felt like the dagger after a Bidunga take and a Council take and score. It was another 10-0 Kansas run, which became a 13-0 Kansas run when Peterson hit another 3, 68-44. You got your big lead back, and it was just run out the clock from there. So a lot of great things. You can highlight so many guys. Of course, Trey White had the numbers again, 19 points and 10 rebounds. Peterson didn't hit a ton of jump shots, or at least not with a ton of efficiency, 6 of 15, 2 of 7, but he was still solid. And I actually saw a clip of a couple of the CBS Sports guys talking about DP when recapping this game. It was Gary Parrish and Wally Zerbiak saying it's telling that as good as AJ DeBonta has been and as good as Cameron Boozer has been and some of these other top-tier freshmen in college basketball, that to them, NBA scouts that know basketball, they point to 22 in Kansas State. That's still the guy.
Yeah.
Even though he hasn't played as much and the other guys have played and played phenomenally, they said, nah, Peterson is that guy. And he showed that last night. And he's done that, honestly, when he's been out there, even though he hasn't been 100%. We're going to hear from him at the podium. But getting back to the main stories of this one, Kansas shortened the rotation, and it ended up working because guys were able to get rhythm, like Jamarco McJackson, as KU Hoops put it.
Yeah.
Let's make that a thing. More on that, but again, the guys played with reckless abandon. They were getting on the floor. Marco had the 20-80 ball that led to Jamari's assist to Trey White. White hits 5 of 7 threes, plus he had an additional 3 that he got fouled on and went to the free throw line. He has been a godsend for Kansas this year offensively and his efficiency shooting threes. And again, to your point, the other big takeaway, aside from the defense coming back, the reckless abandon, is that Kansas didn't necessarily have to play through Darryn Peterson, but they looked like the team with Peterson out there that they were in the non-con, scratching and clawing and moving the ball. And I don't think it can be understated how good somebody like McDowell was. 8 points, 6 assists, and no turnovers. The ball moves when he's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to put up 20 points a game, but the ball moves. He makes the right plays. He drives baseline and kicks it. He drives, on the wing and kicks it, back cuts. Jamari McDowell makes the right plays. Marco Jackson, I thought, though not perfect, played with nice aggressiveness and a couple steals as well, and then the bigs as well. So many good individual things. You didn't see Cole Rosario. You didn't see Jaden Dawson. And hearing Coach Self at the podium postgame, perhaps that'll be something moving forward, that Kansas does, in fact, shorten the rotation, and you do see more of Jamarco McJackson, if you will. But great stuff. You love seeing Council put up 15 and 7 and 3 in a game that Peterson plays. And the whole thing about this game is that Kansas needed it, and now you got to go beat Baylor. So let's not pretend like that's not
absolutely.
true. Let's not pretend like that's not true. You needed this game, and again, from a confidence standpoint and just from a light bulb coming on standpoint, it's, oh yeah, this is how we played when we had so much success in the non-con. This is how we need to continue to play, even though we have Peterson. We're not going to just walk out there against Team A or Team B in the Big 12 and win because we have the best player on the court. We're still going to have to win this way. If that's not coaching, I don't know what is. Whatever the message was after the game in Morgantown, message was received. Those guys came out, scored the first 6, dominated from the jump. This is the recipe. This is the outline for Kansas being a top-tier team who can make a deep run in March.
Well, they had a players-only meeting, too, apparently. And Bill Self said they need to meet more often because whatever was said in that players-only meeting, it clearly worked. But Darryn Peterson is so fascinating because, he makes you better on 2 different levels. Number one, you have the most talented player in the nation on your squad who can get to the rim, finish with his left, make big shots, play great defense, facilitate the ball, whatever that is. But the second way he can make you better is by garnering so much attention that it takes away a lot of the other defensive pressure on those other guys. And that's really what we saw, and they really figured that out. Like I said, it's very easy to be like, let's just give the ball to Darryn, let him score 30, and then we'll just hang back and kind of let him do what he can do. That's not the way to do that, right? And you see the power struggle is not the right word, but it's the word that's coming to my mind.
It's just choppy.
Well, yeah, but it's like when Darren's out there, Melvin doesn't put up as many points. Whenever Darren's not out there, Melvin all of a sudden turns into Michael Jordan, right?
Which
so
is going to happen,
and
to
obviously
an extent, right?
he needs to be able to step up whenever Darryn is not out there. But there is a world where both of them can be legitimate scoring threats, and both have similar stat lines because of the fact that, hey, Darren's over here in the corner calling for the ball. He's garnering a lot of attention. You drive his way, his guy's not going to leave him. His guy is absolutely not going to leave him. So guess what? That's less help defense. That helps Melvin be able to get to the basket. Whenever you drive, it crashes the defense down. You can kick it out. And when you have a guy who's super hot like Trey White was yesterday, 5 for 7 from the three-point line, which, by the way, you mentioned it. I mean, he has just turned into like Steph Curry. My goodness. I mean, nobody, and Bill Self said this in the postgame too. He was asked if he expected this out of Trey White when he recruited him. He's like, absolutely not. He's like, he had no idea. He said he knew he was a pretty good, corner 3 shooter, and he had some good length to him and a good defensive upside, but he had no idea that he would be this much of an impact player at this high of a level. So Trey White, I mean, absolutely was a player of the game for me, obviously with 19 points, 5 for 7 from the 3-point line, making huge shot after huge shot, just continuing to stretch that lead. But just, it's finally coming together where you're seeing, like I said, the 2 different styles of offenses, sans Peterson and with Peterson, blending together.
And speaking of offense, 12 of 24 from 3, as Coach Self will say, that's not real. Everything looks better when you hit shots. Granted, you like how a lot of those shots came from ball movement.
Wide open.
Ball movement, yeah, getting guys
like
in
I
good
said,
spots.
crash into defense, you kick it out, you get a wide open Trey White, you expect him to make that.
That being said, if Kansas, instead of 12 for 24, goes 8 for 24, 33%, you still win this game, and rather comfortably, right? So that's telling. I don't know if that's sustainable. Certainly from what we've seen, it's not. The 50% or high 40s, whatever Kansas has shot when they've shot so well this season. But you know what is sustainable? What they did on the other end.
Absolutely.
Because we saw it in Vegas. And Vegas was the best version of Kansas and probably Bill Self's favorite version of Kansas up until the game last night, because they're getting on the floor, they're winning games that are muddy, they're winning games defensively. He has said this roster is the type of roster that needs to win that way. That is sustainable, competing every possession, winning the 50-50 balls. And Coach Self, again, we'll hear it later, but he said what he wrote on the board was get on the floor, and then something else, and then get on the floor, and then something else, and then get on the floor. That was the main thing. Kansas was on the floor first. Iowa State was shell-shocked. They were completely beat down. And, yeah, we got to face them again on Valentine's Day at noon, but a huge shot in the arm for Kansas. And now you look at the upcoming schedule, important couple weeks for Kansas. I mentioned throughout this week, ever since the West Virginia game, that I don't care who comes to Allen Fieldhouse. Kansas needs to win. Iowa State ranked 2 in the country, undefeated, all that. By the way, the last team that was 16-0 to lose by 21 points or more, 2004, last time that happened. So it's been a while that a team who started the season undefeated at least 16 games.
Was that against a ranked opponent?
I'm sure it was. I mean, but I actually don't know who the opponent was.
I guess that's being a little picky.
Saw that number.
Choosing.
But bottom line is, it doesn't happen too often, and KU really put it to them. So that goes. I mean, that same thing holds true with Baylor coming in. Baylor won last night, which I'm happy about. They won in Stillwater, a nice win for them. They're just 1-3. They've got a couple nice players in Tunde Yesufu and Cameron Carr, and we'll have more on them later this week. But they're not going to be a ranked team. They're not going to be a top 6 to 8 team in conference, and they're coming to our place. Again, I'm not saying Kansas is going to be undefeated at home, but it is Kansas, and that should always be the goal, right? Yeah. Unquestionably. And KU, more often than not, does have success at home, particularly when they're not viewed as a favorite, as was the case last night. So Baylor at home, got to win that. Next week is 2 road games, and I think you would probably agree with me in saying, okay, at Colorado, at K-State, who knows where those 2 teams are going to finish in the Big 12 compared to UCF or West Virginia, but it's kind of similar, middling to bottom-tier teams is what these teams are. Kansas, January 31st through the month of February, is a lot harder schedule on paper. You have a chance to go 5-2. I was thinking about this before the show today. Say you beat Baylor, you're 3-2. Needs to happen. Cannot have a setback on Friday.
Yeah.
And then the question is, would you take 1-1 on the road next week? And the answer to that, I think, is no. Because maybe if you had gone 1-1 against UCF and West Virginia, you would accept that.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens against Baylor. We'll see what happens at Colorado. And maybe at 4-2, we'll be feeling a little bit different. But the bottom line is Colorado's going to finish the bottom part of the Big 12, even though they've won a couple games in conference already.
Yeah.
K-State's 0-3, but they're a dynamic offensive team, and KU has struggled in Manhattan in recent years. Those need to be wins, because then you got a ridiculous slate. I mean, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Cincinnati are sprinkled in. I want to say that. But beginning January 31st, aside from those 3 games, BYU, at Texas Tech, Arizona, at Iowa State, Houston, at Arizona. So it's not going to be easy.
That's
right?
tough.
And that's
a
where
tough
it makes it to the point where if you want to compete for the Big 12, if you want to add to your resume, all the things that you want to happen, you got to go on the road and win some games. And if Kansas is able to get past Baylor, which again has to happen, don't want to get too high over this Iowa State game, even though we're certainly going to enjoy it today. I think you got to go on the road and you have the mindset of, hey, we got to keep grinding. And now what makes me so confident is, again, they're reminded of the recipe to win games in this conference.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, Colorado's better than people thought just in terms of their record. K-State has a prolific scorer in PJ Haggerty, but they're still not a fully functioning team, but it's always K-State's Super Bowl whenever Kansas comes to town. So you got two really tough road games, but just think about the storylines that would have happened if Kansas would have come out there against Iowa State and lost or got their teeth kicked in or just lost in general. They would have lost by one. And you actually had a great point off air. You said, all you need to do is beat them by one. Kansas wound up beating them by 21. Yeah. So that completely changes everything. This is a pivotal moment for Kansas in this season right now. I think this is going to be one of these games where we look back on this game and say that was the most pivotal thing. Because right now, if Kansas were to lose that game, Kansas would be 1-3 in conference play, looking at Baylor, a pretty good Baylor team, and saying we could easily be 1-4 and going into a tailspin. All of a sudden, you're at 500 right now with a chance to get a winning record back in Big 12 play. You're right back in it. It's so important that this happened this early in Big 12 play. But in terms of momentum, in terms of confidence in these guys, in terms of chemistry with these guys, this to me is going to be the point where we look back in mid-March and say that is the game that needed to happen in order for Kansas to be somewhat successful this year.
I sure hope so, because a week ago we might have said the same thing about the TCU game.
That's true.
Because that's a comeback, and we're thinking, okay, oh man, that's the one that could get them going. But I feel so much better, not because Iowa State's a much better team than TCU, and Kansas didn't have to come back and all that, and there were emotions for different reasons in both games, but it's how Kansas did it. Kansas needed to beat TCU because you needed to not lose that game, and they were able to go out and do that. We thought it was going to be a springboard. Turned out it wasn't. You lost on the road to West Virginia. This can be a springboard, but in such a different way because, again, the recipe is there. They can watch the tape and say, oh, man, yeah, I remember how we did this in non-con, and I remember how we competed to win, competed every possession. Kansas hit shots. The ball moved on offense. It was a lot of fun.
Just want to say, Jamari McDowell, 23-37 in this game, 23 minutes and 37 seconds in this game. Plus 30. Plus 30.
Leading all players, McDowell.
Unbelievable. He was plus 30. His plus minus, that is... his plus minus on the year has got to be up there in terms of like KU history, because whenever he's in the game, he has been really, really good and he has earned his playing time. And like you said, whenever he's out there, he'll put the ball on the ground and drive. The ball doesn't stick
the 0.5
in his
rule.
hands.
Jamari McDowell gets that. The 0.5 rule.
Absolutely.
You dribble, pass, or shoot in 0.5 seconds. Bill Self would say that's an old San Antonio Spurs thing, and that's how the ball moves. That's how the ball doesn't stick. McDowell was so good. 6 assists, no turnovers. Plus, he hit another big shot. Like I said, KU was up 14, but it was end of the clock. Just
both
a
of his
gut
threes
punch.
are pretty huge.
It may have been a game that's a top 5 performance for Kansas when we look back at the end of the year, and maybe a bottom 5 performance for Iowa State when we look back. But at this point, you don't care. At this point, that needed to happen, and you got to beat Baylor on Friday. You hate to have that mindset because you want to enjoy it, but you can't have a setback Friday. So
you sound like a player. You sound like a player who's well media trained right now.
Right.
Like, on to the next.
Yeah.
No, he's like, I'm going to enjoy it.
A great win.
It was so much fun. Yesterday, the Allen Fieldhouse was just an absolute madhouse. It was the fans were in it. It was so loud in there. Constant just crowd pop after crowd pop. By the way, I did want to say Iowa State basketball Twitter didn't tweet throughout the entire game. They tweeted out the starting 5.
And then it got bad.
And then it got really bad to start. And then their next tweet after their starting 5 was the final score.
Hey, you know what? At least they posted the final score. Sometimes the folks from Columbia shy away from that. But Iowa State, a lot of respect for that program. Coach Otzelberger has a lot of respect for Kansas and Coach Self. We're going to hear from that later in Rock Chalk Sports as well. More is coming up, though. We're excited about KU basketball. More chatter. We're going to have Henry Greenstein soon. We're going to go to the podium as well on Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City, and KansasNation.com. Game Day Men's Health Lawrence is the place to go if you need to get yourself checked out. If you're struggling with weight gain, struggling with ED, low T, anything, get over to Game Day Men's Health Lawrence. Tell Mitch Bales and his team that the guys at Kansas Nation sent you. Really grateful for that partnership and, just something that all guys deal with, honestly. Everybody's affected in some way. 60% of all guys will experience ED at some point in their life, and 50% of guys by the age of 40 will experience low T. Perhaps you don't have the energy, you don't have the drive that you want. Make sure you go check yourself out at Game Day Men's Health Lawrence. They will do a blood draw and a quick 3-step process, and the first visit is completely complimentary. So shout out to Mitch and Sam, everybody over there. Really appreciate them. What a game last night at Allen Fieldhouse. 84-63 KU over previously unbeaten and number 2 Iowa State. Let's go to the podium post-game. Darryn Peterson was at the podium alongside Trey White.
The last couple of games, it's really looked like you kind of doing into your own like you were when you got your explosive standpoint. How did it feel? How do you feel now? And how big was this win tonight?
I'm feeling better. It's coming back slowly to me. I was out for a while, but every game I feel like I'm getting better. And tonight was a great win. Definitely coming off the loss to West V. We knew we had to come here and get a win, so that's what we do.
And what was the locker room like afterwards?
We was a little bit turned up, but now we getting ready for Baylor now.
Trey, from your perspective, I guess what changed between the last few games and tonight to allow you guys to put on a performance like this?
I feel like just the details. Like I say every game, I feel like we're not losing the teams. I feel like we had a mistake. So I feel like tonight, all week, we've been doing a good job of helping the helper, playing with a little bit more extra grit, and I feel like tonight it showed.
And for both of you guys, when Iowa State went on that long run early in the second half, how were you able to respond with the run of your own?
We've been in this position a couple times this year. We had a couple games this year where we up going into half and the team goes into a run. So being in that moment, we knew how to keep that composure and then get back to what we do.
Darryn, how difficult has it been just to kind of go what you've been going through, hearing maybe the critics you've had and knowing your body hasn't maybe answered every time? What's it like to actually been able to get through a game and have a moment like this with your team?
It was definitely frustrating because I want to be out there with my guys. I want to be out there for Coach and also for myself at the end of the day. But it is what it is. I got to kind of just keep going forward. I'm getting better every day, so that's all I can ask for.
Trey, I think the radio broadcast pregame mentioned that you guys had a team meeting, players only sort of meeting. Anything that you can give us from that meeting, and do you think it kind of helped out with the win tonight?
Yeah, just kind of reiterating, the key things that we want to, identify ourselves as, this year. And I feel like just the internal conversation, I feel like it made us more focused on everything that we do. I don't want to give everything that we said, but still players only, but it definitely made us more connected.
One for each of you guys, if I could. Trey, does this game remind you of what the ceiling is for you guys? I mean, I'm sure you guys haven't forgotten that, but is that something you come out of this game with, like understanding you can beat anybody?
Yeah, for sure. That's how we felt and still feel all year. It's just good to see, some of that come true right now. But so just keep stacking days, and I'm excited to see where we go.
And Darryn, just for you, I think you came out the one time, maybe you were having an issue, but in general, was this as free as you felt for a little while through the course of the game, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I would say so. I felt pretty good today. I probably felt better TCU, but it's a battle every day. I'm gonna keep getting better.
Guys, I mean, you guys have a pretty balanced scoring load out there. I think everybody had at least 8 points. Is that kind of an emphasis after the players only meeting of kind of sharing the load, making sure it's not just on Darryn? And
yeah, for sure. Darryn's such a great player, and his magnitude on the court is crazy. He can attract 2-3 players sometimes. So in the meeting, we definitely made it a point to be more aggressive to make it easier on him. And I feel like tonight we did a good job of that, and we could definitely do a better job of when he's off ball, getting him open and stuff like that, because he's so good with the ball in his hands. So definitely doing our part to make his job easier was one of those for sure.
DP, I wonder how much of an indication it is. You tried to punch a couple of times tonight over guys. Is that an indication of your body and your explosiveness coming back?
Yeah, I would say so. I probably wasn't capable in some of the other games, but yeah, I think that's a good sign for me.
Were those moments instinct, or are you trying to make that statement like?
Probably a little bit of both.
And Trey, I wonder the start, Flory 2 buckets early, Bryson 2 buckets early. How important to get those guys going? You guys have talked about that a lot lately.
Yeah, I love that. Whenever they get going early, I feel like it, has the defense sticking to them a little bit longer, creates a little bit bigger of a gap for, him and Melvin and, me to drive and stuff like that. So, definitely got to do a better job every game of getting them going.
Real quick, too, the play where El Marco dove on the floor, got it to Jamari, kicked it to you, you hit the 3.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw Coach after that. Maybe you saw everybody. Did you see it? Yeah, he's pointing at El Marco, he's yelling. I mean, how indicative of that is sort of the urgency that you guys played with and what tonight was all about, that one play?
Yeah, that one play kind of sums up our identity. We want to be like a grit and grind kind of team, one of the toughest teams that, you're going to play, and I feel like that play kind of, explained it all right there.
Darryn, I'm curious with the cramps, is this something you've ever dealt with before for a prolonged stretch like this?
Nah.
And when you're in the game, how are you trying to manage wanting to get out there, help the team, and also preserving yourself and your body? What are the what's the balance there, I guess?
My goal when I'm out there is to give it all I got, and then if I need to come out, ask for a sub, because I don't want to be a sore thumb out there. So when I need to come out, ask for it. But when I'm out there, I try to go 110.
Trey, 19 and 10, 6 of 13 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. You get big shot after big shot. In warm-ups, or was there any creative times where you just felt something coming on, or does it just hit?
No, just a testament to my teammates and my coaches, finding me when I was open, keep giving me that belief. Every time they pass, they saying shoot it, and it's just my daily work. So, kudos to my team, for sure.
And for both of you, or either of you, obviously 1 and 2 headed into this game, big game. Is Coach Self a speech guy? Did he give you guys a speech or anything before the game, or anything different about tonight's approach, or was it just the same? I see both of you smiling, so.
Yeah, we get a speech probably out of 7 days of the week, 6. So he's definitely a speech guy. But he's good at getting stuff out of us, like that diving before he talked about from Marco. We talked about that in the locker room, so it's definitely working. And we listen to him. He a GOAT, so we'd be wrong not to listen to him.
Trey, just following up on the shooting real quick. I mean, you're shooting 3 better than you have previously in your career. You had 5 threes tonight. What's gone into the development of your shot this season?
Just consistency and work. When you have great players on the floor that can attract 2 or 3 players, it's nothing for me to get a wide open catch and shoot, so I got to knock those down. So just kudos to my teammates for being aggressive.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's Darryn Peterson and Trey White. Post-game, KU blows out Iowa State 84-63. Dan, did you feel that breeze off the ocean?
I did. There's a little bit of salt in the air.
How about
it's
that?
Nice. It smells like surfer waves and Hollister. What could that possibly be?
It's the pride of the Pacific Coast. Henry Greenstein, KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World. He is in studio. Next segment on Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. Sean Kellerman, Dan Courtright back with you. ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com, basking in the triumph of last night's KU win over number 2 Iowa State, 84-63. Every Wednesday on the show, we're joined by KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World's Henry Greenstein. Henry, thanks again for coming on. Well, I said it to Dan in the opening segment. David and I were talking in the Jayhawk locker room show, and actually as we were walking out post-game, I said it's crazy how on Saturday when KU lost, KU was the worst team in the world. But now, in 3 days, we're the best team in the world. Isn't that great?
I know.
KU blows out Iowa State by 21. Your takeaways?
I mean, this fan base and this community is so prone to hyperbole. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to blame anyone for feeling on top of the world after last night. It was an incredible performance. Just from the opening minutes, you could tell Iowa State was rattled, and they never really fully settled into the game. And a lot of that was because KU was so tight on defense. I have a feeling we'll see them stick to the 3-and-2 kind of thing where they're going to switch among the guards and switch among the forwards. It worked really well. I mean, obviously it'll vary from team to team, but it worked really well yesterday. they played with intensity, and then on the offensive end, they played with aggression, and that was one of the things that apparently they touched on at the players-only meeting. That we'll see what happens the rest of the year, but perhaps this could find its way into KU lore, much like the one in 2008. Who knows?
Henry Cheese.
Yes, the famous Henry Cheese, the dearly departed Henry Cheese.
Yeah.
Rip.
In any case, one thing they talked about at that meeting apparently was the idea that everyone throughout the team needs to be more aggressive to kind of take the burden off of DP. And you could tell from the way that Elmarko and Jamari in particular played that they got the message.
Yeah.
Elmarko is always at his best when he tries to get to the rim. I think he was maybe even trying to get to the rim at the expense of some open shots in this game, but he drew free throws and just made the defense respect him as a threat more. And Jamari, no hesitation on some of those threes, and he hit some of the biggest shots of the game. And also a much better dribble penetrator and kicker out than maybe we thought.
Yeah.
6 assists and 5 in the first half. The bench thing was starting to become a significant talking point with this team. So the fact that those two guys stepped up, I think, was really important, and it was a good time for them to do so. Really not a lot of negatives you can say. I mean, I think we just have to take a moment to acknowledge that Bill Self is 5-0 in his tenure against number 2 teams at Allen Fieldhouse. And it's not like KU's been number 1 in all of those. In fact, they've only been number 1 in one of them.
Yeah.
I think the other rankings are 3 in one of the games against Baylor, 17 in one of the games against Baylor where they were number 2. I think there was a 13 in there, and then unranked yesterday, maybe the most impressive of them all. Probably not the highest caliber game of all time, considering one of those went to triple overtime and was one of the greatest games ever played out in Fieldhouse. But regardless, this team needed something like this for itself, and I think the fans need something like this to understand that this team can still potentially go a long way. Darryn Peterson with not an incredibly impressive performance, but it feels like he's getting better integrated. It no longer feels like, as so many have said, including you guys, it no longer feels like there's 2 different versions of the team, the one where Darryn Peterson's on the floor and the one where there isn't. It feels like they're starting to draw closer together and mesh better with each other, and Peterson's going to shoot better than 6 for 15 most of the time. So on the whole, a command performance against a team that has struggled to win at Allen Fieldhouse over the years, and coming in with maybe their best team in recent memory, thought they had a chance to do so, but not this time.
Henry G's from KSports.com and the Lawrence Journal World joins us here in studio. Henry, I wanted to talk to you. Is that, by the way, is that what, if you open a restaurant, would it be Henry G's?
I don't know that that's what I'd call it.
Oh, come on. That'd be fun. Anyway.
I'll manage it if you open a restaurant. I've got experience.
You do have experience.
I'll wash dishes. I wanted to ask you about Darryn Peterson because I talked about this in the...
Darryn Peterson.
Yes, I know.
Let's hear it.
Darryl Peterson? Darryl Patterson.
Darryl Patterson.
In the first segment of the show, I talked about how there's 2 different offenses, essentially, where there's the offense without Darryn Peterson, where there is a lot of dribble driving, more aggressive takes to the basket. Melvin Council can take over games. Guys are stepping up, and it's just different. It's gritty. It's more aggressive. The assists are there. The facilitation's there. When you have Darryn Peterson, the ball sticks more. Guys are settling for shots more. The ball movement is not there. This is the first time that we've kind of seen the 2 really coincide with each other, I guess. Do you think that was potentially something that clicked in their head where they're like, oh, well, we can just do what we did without Darryn with him also out there. And it makes it easier on them because he's garnering a lot more attention as well. So that makes the drives a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also, this is very obvious, and I think they always intended to kind of do this, but just having Melvin be the primary ball handler more when DP is out on the court. Especially when you got someone just trying to blanket Peterson like Killian Torre was yesterday. You need the opportunity for him to move off the ball and benefit from screen and stuff. You can't just have him dribble around the perimeter back and forth waiting for something to happen. And Melvin has been shown to be comfortable creating with the ball in his hands. He's got the speed to outrun attempted double teams, to just cause all sorts of matchup problems, and that can in turn benefit Peterson. It's kind of like what we've been saying throughout. Like, Peterson has to learn how to play with his teammates, and the teammates have to learn to play with him. It kind of seems like the best mutual outcome right now is to have Melvin actually take the lion's share of the point guard minutes. Now, I understand Peterson's future at the next level maybe as a primary ball handler. And I understand also that generally giving your best player more time with the ball is a good idea. But that being said, like, especially when he's still dealing with cramps to some extent, which Self said he is, and he clearly is, he's going to be more proportionally a shooter as opposed to a driver than he is when he's at 100% full health. That being said, you want him to get to his spots. Therefore, it's good to have Melvin control the ball and run the flow of the offense a fair amount of the time.
Well, a lot of positives to take from this one. 84-63 KU over Iowa State. Perhaps the best way to look at this, or maybe the thing we should highlight the most, is what's sustainable. And what's sustainable are the attacking the 50-50 balls and the competitiveness defensively on every possession. That is what we saw in the non-con that made Kansas such a good team, even without DP. 10-3. Kevin Flaherty was on the show. 3 losses are Duke, Carolina, and UConn. Like, that's an A performance in non-con when you didn't have Darryn Peterson. All of a sudden, you come back, and Kansas struggled the first 3 games of conference play going 1-2, but you still scored 75, 104, and 75 in those games, and now you score 84. So certainly the offense can improve, but defensively, that's what held Kansas back. And in this game, like you said, Iowa State was rattled. They were uncomfortable. Kansas was in their grill. What did you see on the defensive side last night that made KU so successful? And more importantly, what's sustainable for Kansas to continue doing and certainly remind themselves, hey, this is the recipe for us to go deep in March?
I mean, a few things come to mind. I mean, the big umbrella thing is just clearly a higher level of consistent energy on the defensive end. That's something you can bring to every game. This was like the narrative of last year, so I'm not going to belabor the point too much, but the idea that you can come in, energy is something you can control, and effort something you control, and they clearly controlled it in a good way yesterday. And as Bill Self likes to say about all sorts of things, once you've demonstrated once that you're capable of doing it, the expectation then becomes that you do that throughout. So, you know, if there are games where they don't live up to that, they'll hear about it from him. But on a more micro level, some things that come to mind were better physicality from the big men. You know, Jefferson's a load in there, but you think of some times that Flory stood him up pretty well, or if he got driven back, he at least did enough to disrupt him somewhat. Another example would be more active hands on the defensive end. I think of a couple plays where an Iowa State player tried to back someone down, and you'd see someone like DP or Melvin just kind of lunge over and swipe at the ball. You run the risk of fouling sometimes, but, you know, your guards aren't going to foul a whole lot to begin with, and this is a team that hasn't created many turnovers. When you do stuff like that, that's an easy way to fluster the opposing team, especially if the person backing down is someone who maybe isn't used to dribbling the ball all that much. Those were a couple of things. Talked about the switching earlier. Again, I think that particular ball screen coverage and whatnot will continue to shift from one game to the next, but they at least found a system that worked for them on this occasion. On the whole, yeah, I mean, more like what we expected this team's defense to look like based on non-conference play.
Yeah, 100%. Henry Greenstein, KSports.com, and the Lawrence Journal World. I wanted to talk to you about the bigs, too. Flory Badunga and Bryson Taylor started off the game super strong, right? Obviously, you saw Bryson get a couple really early. Flory had 2 huge dunks. All of a sudden, Kansas is up, I think it was 8-2. They're up 6-0 at one point. Just a massive start that really set the tone for the rest of the game. But all of a sudden, you did kind of see the struggles on the rebounding side of the ball as well. You saw Bryson only have 4 rebounds. He only played 21 minutes in this game, but Flory Badunga only had 7 rebounds in this game. That's better, I guess, than kind of where he was, but still, you probably want him over that double-digit figure. Just in terms of rebounding, where do you think those struggles are continuing to come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say when you have a team firing away from 3 a lot. There's a lot of long rebounds, makes it harder for the big men. I actually think, I mean, I understand they gave up 17 offensive rebounds, which looks really bad when you see it on that number. But this was not as strikingly bad of a performance to me in that respect as some of the others. Maybe just because they ended up winning by 21 anyway, so I'm not thinking about it as much,
right.
Which maybe doesn't make me a very good analyst.
Yeah.
But I do think what I mentioned before with the long rebounds is one thing. I do think their physicality still needs additional work, even though they were good defensively. Maybe their positioning and their intensity around the rim can still use more work. But I also think, like, you know, Trey White's vacuuming up a lot of rebounds.
That's true. Yeah, he had 10.
He had 10. He had double. Melvin Council
6
had
offensive
7,
rebounds
I think.
too. Yeah, Melvin
so
Council had 7.
You'd think that if your guards, again, Trey White's technically listed as a forward, but I don't. When your guards are rebounding that well, you'd think you could be an elite rebounding team. But from a practical standpoint, there's only so many rebounds to go around. So it does make sense that like the guards having better numbers is detracting from the forwards to some extent. But yes, absolutely, they can still get better.
Well, one thing that was seemingly going to be a storyline heading into this season was three-point shooting, partially because the last 2 seasons it hasn't gone well. Last 2 seasons, you were heavily relying on Rylan Griffin last year and the year before Nick Timberlake. And, you know, there were some moments. Johnny Furphy, of course, had some good stretches a couple years ago. And, you know, DeJuan Harris occasionally had some good stretches. But in general, Kansas didn't shoot the rock great. And you were thinking when you looked at this roster heading into the season, okay, well, you got Jaden Dawson. Dawson's an upper 30% all-time shooter in his career. And you got Cole Rosario, a guy who, you know, how often have we heard the story? Oh, he had 15 of 17 at practice or something. And those guys certainly are still going to have opportunities down the line. Rosario's only a freshman. He's going to have a lot of chances to turn that. But let's look. Jamari McDowell is shooting 43%, not as much of a sample size as Trey White, but McDowell has hit a big one. Trey White has been a godsend this season for Kansas. You look, Henry, at USC, 26.5% from three. At Louisville, 29.9% from three. At Illinois, 32.9%. So an upward tick. At Kansas this year, 44.9% from three. That is a huge jump. He looks comfortable. He's doing it within the offense. He's not taking bad shots. And there have been a couple times where Kansas has had nothing, and he's had a dribble between the legs, step back three that's been huge for Kansas. Did that twice against TCU that I remember. What has gone so right for Trey White? Because like I said, he's been a godsend to this offense.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I mean, a career 30.1 three-point shooter prior to the season.
I could have just said that instead of all that.
well, no, but you're right about the upward trajectory.
story,
You see upward trajectory, you don't expect a 12 percentage point jump from someone going to their junior to senior year, which you wouldn't even necessarily expect to be a time for significant growth. I mean, there's so many different reasons why. One of them is this team has a lot of good drivers on it this year, and that creates opportunities for him to reposition himself around the three-point line. I mean, and we've only seen just a glimpse at this point of what him playing with Darryn looks like, but the fact is that a lot of times his man's getting drawn off him to go deal with Darryn Peterson. We've seen that quite a few times already, just in the small sample, but even before that, like Melvin was doing a good job creating opportunities for him. But you know, he's a guy who can drive, so you have to back off him a little bit to at least consider that threat. It's funny, the shooting's been incredible. He already has more threes in this season than he has in any single season in his career, but I'm not even sure that's like the best aspect of his game. The rebounding's been super valuable for reasons we already discussed. He's really good at drawing fouls, although maybe hasn't done that quite as much, even though he did it very prominently late yesterday. But I think he's just like a really savvy veteran player. He knows what to do at what time, and maybe even perceives that this team needs him to be more of a shooter than the other team has. You know, this is a guy who has been known to adapt to. He's a glue guy, and he prides himself on that. He prides himself on being a jack of all trades. This team needs him to be a three-point shooter, in large part because it's apparently designated three-point shooters haven't stepped up to that role yet. And the fact that he's succeeded to this extent is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of people liked to compare Cole Rosario to Christian Brown just from a frame standpoint. I said earlier this year, Trey White, I think, is a good comparison for Christian Brown. You look at the stats, though, Christian Brown was solid. He shot 38% his final year at KU, averaged 10 points and 5 rebounds. Granted, that team was loaded, and Trey White, a little bit more usage on this team. But Trey White, 15.4 points per game and 7.2 rebounds per game, 2.1 assists, 49.4%, 44.9% from three. He has done everything, and I just want to give him one more shout-out because I think that he's been probably as big of reason as Kansas' success as anybody on the roster, frankly.
Yeah, 100%. Henry, one more basketball question for you. Wanted to talk to you about the path forward, I guess, and how important this Iowa State game was in terms of, you know, storylines surrounding Kansas, right? Because if Kansas comes out of this game losing, all of a sudden they're 1-3, staring down the barrel of 1-4. losing 2 straight home games against a pretty solid Baylor team. Now Kansas is 2-2, right? They're looking at getting a winning record back into it. This feels like, I said this last segment, this feels like one of those pivotal games where you're going to look back in mid-March and say, that's when it all changed for Kansas. That's when Kansas really started going an upward tick. But I want to talk about Baylor a little bit. What do you know about Baylor other than the fact that they have a former second-round draft pick on their team? Do you kind of break that down in terms of, just what you know about them and the importance of getting back into a winning record in Big 12 play?
Yeah, they do have a former second-round draft pick who's playing like 6 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, no, you're not playing a lot.
Yeah. Well, Baylor's one of a few teams in the Big 12, it seems like, that has an entirely new roster every year for one reason or another. But they've put together a pretty good one. I understand they are 1-3 in Big 12 play, but put up 94 on a pretty decent Oklahoma State team yesterday. So will be another test of maybe this defensive resurgence. Cameron Carr, I think he's averaging like 20 points a game. He's been a great find for them. Tunde Yesufu, who's going to be a lottery pick next year, I was vaguely aware of because he played in the CIF Central section. He went to St. Joseph High School in Santa Maria, California.
Nice.
So not like exactly where I was working, but just a little drive toward the coast.
California's small enough. You can pretty much get anywhere.
Yeah. But
you just know everybody, the small towns.
Yes, but St. Joseph would play against like Bakersfield Christian and schools like that. So I caught wind of Yesufu's talent. He's been pretty incredible. Some of their transfer additions have maybe not panned out quite as expected, like Michael Ratai and Obi Agbeem, if that's how you say that. But they seem like they might start to come together. Obviously, going against a Scott Drew team is always a challenge with the weird defenses they throw at you. They've been known to use a lot of zone. I was listening to KT on the post game yesterday talk about how they have the guy who was Virginia's interim coach last year is now their associate head coach. So the way that they defend like man defense is different from how they did in previous years against Baylor. So a challenge for the coaches to adapt to for KU maybe. But like not an exceptional team, like a team that you think will probably be in kind of the 8 to 10 range in the Big 12. And last year playing against another Baylor team that wasn't particularly exceptional, KU gave up a 21-point lead in Waco. We'll see what happens this time around. I think the fans are energized, and Allen Fieldhouse will turn in another great performance on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we certainly hope so. Be sure to stay tuned to kansasnation.com for all your updates throughout that game. Henry, wanted to talk a little football, flip it over to football, as the transfer portal 2 days left, I believe. Technically, like one-ish. Right? No, I guess it ends on the 16th.
Yeah, so you can enter through the 16th. Technically, you could sign people after that.
Well, sure,
But the fact that the semester is about to start at KU means we are rapidly drawing toward the point. Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah.
But also, you feel like Kansas has really done a good job at cleaning up, and they got a lot of their guys super early, which I think is really important to get those guys committed relatively early. Since we've last talked, a few guys have gone ahead and come to Kansas.
More than
Butler.
a few.
Yeah, more than a few for sure. But quite a few actually. But Corey Gordon from Louisville is a giant name who was a rock star at Baylor and had a really good season at Louisville last year. Overall, if Kansas is done, I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that they are. You feel pretty good as of right now. If you were to give a grade and just in terms of all of the needs that needed to be met, if they would end today, Kansas is saying we're no longer taking anybody in. How are you feeling? What's the state of the program right now with these transfers?
It's a good question. So they're at, by my count and also Michael Swain's count, like 85 scholarships, which is pre-house. That was the limit.
Yeah.
Now you can technically go a little bit over that, so it doesn't preclude them from necessarily getting another guy. And reportedly, they're having a Bucknell lineman in for a visit, so they may still be going, but essentially done, barring any other extraneous additions. B plus. It's kind of how I feel about it. I think they've filled all the needs. I have questions about the quality of the players they use to fill those needs at certain positions. There are a couple where I think there are question marks. There are some where I think they've done an excellent job. I can divulge some more information on that at various positions. For instance, defensive tackle, I think they did an absolutely incredible job.
Yeah.
For a team that is trying to move to more multiple fronts, they obviously want to have different body types at defensive tackle and defensive end. And last year, they, to some extent, had that with guys like Alex Bray, Justice Finkley, and then they would use Keenan Caldwell more in run-stopping situations, Blake Harreld and guys like that, more pass rushing. They have continued that into the portal by getting nose tackle type guys like McAlpine, kind of more agile, borderline tweener guys like Conde. Eamon Smalls will be great. A highly regarded prospect in Otis who's just scratching the surface. They have so many options, and it's a position that loves to rotate. They'll play as many of those guys as they can.
Yeah.
I really like what they did at tackle. On the flip side, there are some positions where they brought in a lot of guys, and I'm not totally sure that anyone emerges to me as like a front runner. An example would be weak side linebacker. KU brought in 4 guys to me who seem like they're kind of weak side linebackers when you think about Landon Watson, Jerron Willis, Quincy Davis, and Jabril Al-Amin. And they're all kind of players who have produced at lower levels, but not necessarily the power conference level or haven't really gotten a chance yet. There isn't like a proven guy who stands out to me as a surefire day one starter, which is fine. Competition will be great. And maybe some of those guys will get time at Mike linebacker as well. But I wasn't 100% sold by what they did there. Where I do like Davion Crouch as a middle linebacker, by the way.
Yeah.
But we'll see if Lathan ends up coming back. That'll be the big storyline in the next couple of days.
That'll be huge.
That'll be something to monitor.
We're going to be keeping an eye on that for sure.
I can talk about more positions if you want.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask specifically also about running back.
Yeah.
Running back and wide receiver to me are maybe the ones. Maybe that's just because they're attractive skill positions. But you got Yassine Willis coming in and Jalen Dupree at the running back position. Both, kind of between the tackles guys, at least on paper. Your confidence in Justin Thurman being that kind of change of pace guy, or is Kansas going to add there? And then the wide receiver position, it seems like Nick McMillan, according to Kevin Flaherty and experts such as Kevin Flaherty, will slide into that wide receiver 1 spot. They also brought Nazai Cox as well. And then, you can return Kubeka and Pickett and others. Just your thoughts on those positions. Potentially Kansas might add one more.
Yeah. McMillan, I think, is probably their biggest acquisition in the entire portal window, maybe?
Absolutely.
Those defensive tackles are good. Corey Gordon, another that comes to mind. But McMillan, a guy who had 981 yards and was a first-team all-conference receiver last year, KU doesn't splurge for guys like that often. I like what they did with him. And Nazai Cox, I don't know if you've watched his highlights, but that's a contested catch guy. He can go up there. A good kind of player for a first-year starting quarterback to have at his disposal. So I like the idea of them combined with Pickett in the slot and Kubeka rotating in. So I like what they did at wide receiver. I'd be fine if they're doing with wide receiver. I agree with you, though, at running back. It's kind of like last year when Haishan and Williams were not really complementary players. They were sort of overlapping players. Willis is taller and bigger. Dupree maybe a little more burst, I guess. But I just feel like KU really has not had speed at the running back position. And they targeted a guy named Jalen Lucas, who maybe could have provided that, but he ended up committing elsewhere, I believe to Tulane. So, if they're going to add anywhere else and go above the traditional scholarship limit, and by the way, if you do that, it gets deducted from your department-wide revenue sharing budget.
Oh.
Interesting. If they're going to do that, you got to get a speed guy. The problem with that is if you're a really fast running back, are you going to want to join a team that already has 2 players who were their respective schools' leading rushers committed? So I wouldn't be surprised if they're ultimately not able to do that.
Interesting. Any other positions you want to highlight before we get you out of here?
I guess just super quickly, safety. We mentioned Gordon. Between him and Jaden Harris, you have to feel a lot better about what they have now. And, of course, those aren't the only guys they added. But those are the 2 who have power conference season-long starting experience and will definitely push the people already present there. And it was important for KU to bulk up at safety because they run 5 defensive backs now. Cornerback, they improved a little bit because mostly the people who left at cornerback were not going to be on the depth chart. So adding people in who actually can compete is a bonus. offensive line we've talked about already, so I won't spend too much time on it, but I feel like they got maybe 3 starting caliber players, which is pretty good. The key there for me will be, can Case and Carpenter claim the starting job outright? Because otherwise you might have a Shane Bumgarner situation where it's like, how else can we make this guy useful right now if he's not going to be our starting center? But yeah, that's about it. Tight end, you mentioned Butler. I think they'll use all 4. I think they'll use 4 tight ends. So on the
You
whole,
heard it here first, 14 personnel.
they've done that.
I know. I'm excited. I'm saying it would be awesome.
But yeah, I think they did a good job filling all their needs. You can see the positions where they spent more money and picked out the exact kind of players they needed. Just a few question marks, but that's the offseason for you.
Yeah, it really is. Kansas women getting a win tonight. Oklahoma State, they got to get one.
Well, like we were talking about off air, I mean, Schneider's got a great record against the Cowgirls. So, but they absolutely do need to get back on track, and hopefully their team will be a little bit healthier tonight too.
Yeah, started so good, I guess, just looking at it from a competitiveness standpoint in the Big 12 when they lost by a buzzer beater, just 2 up in Ames against the top 10 Iowa State team, but just 1-4 overall through 5 games. Hopefully they get a win. 6:30 tonight at Allen Fieldhouse, the Kansas women against Oklahoma State. Henry, thank you so much for coming in again. We'll chat with you soon.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Henry Greenstein. Check out all his work, KUSports.com, LJWorld.com. More coming up after this, including our KU Mailbag segment. First, don't forget to check out the new Jayhawker podcast on KansasNation.com featuring Tyrell Reed and the late Dr. Scott Scooter Ward. Really special segment there, the Jayhawker podcast on KansasNation.com. More coming up after this, KansasNation.com, ESPN, Kansas City. By the people, for the people, the KU Mailbag segment. Appreciate everybody who sent in their comments, questions at the Kansas Nation on Twitter. Speaking of which, follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at the Kansas Nation. Of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. If you want to check out editions not only of Rock Chalk Sports, but editions of Haney and the Hawks with a special guest, Tyshawn Taylor. That'll be up shortly. Right. Tyshawn has his own podcast as well here at Kansas Nation. Time Out with Tyshawn Taylor. He will keep it real. You don't want to miss that.
He's been on this show before and had to do a lot of editing. He's a great guest.
Shout out to our listeners over on ESPN Kansas City.
They always tell you, like, don't meet your heroes, but Tyshawn is the opposite of that, where he's just a great guy.
He was my favorite player at KU because he was here when I was in college, and that 2012 team.
It's signed by Tyshawn.
Yeah, how about that? 2012 team was special moment.
He's awesome, great guy, great podcast too. So check that out on Kansas Nation on YouTube and go to kansasnation.com. Go down to the bottom, you'll find it right there.
Yeah, kansasnation.com, your place for everything. Press conferences, post-game press conferences from last night. Of course, tomorrow we're going to hear from Bill Self and perhaps a KU player as well. That'll be posted up there. kansasnation.com for all Jayhawks news, Big 12 news, rival news. Everything is on there. So check it out. Dan, who's starting us off today on the KU Mailbag segment?
KU Mailbag, by the people, for the people. Colin wants to know, of all the positives from last night, what was still a concern?
Wow.
Classic
fun
KU,
at parties.
Classic
Colin,
KU
you must be
fan
fun at
trying
parties.
to find something to be upset about.
That's your boy, isn't it, Colin?
It is, yeah. He's actually going to be at my wedding. As a good buddy of mine. I brought it up with Henry. Rebounding is an issue. Rebounding is a giant issue. And it just stinks that every single game you look at Bryson Taylor's stat line and you go,
oh my God,
hell
here we
did
go
you
again.
get 4 rebounds? That's the thing. If you're 6'10", you're a power forward, you're playing down low, you need to get more than 4 rebounds.
Okay.
I'm not a hater.
You are a hater.
To be fair, Henry did bring it up. He said they were shooting a lot of threes, and there were a lot of long rebounds.
Council got 7, Peterson got 5, White got 10.
All right, rebounding from our bigs.
So
how about that?
Does Tiller become a worse player if other guys get rebounds?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying rebounds from our bigs. I think there's too many second chance opportunities being had. They had 17 offensive rebounds.
I agree. And I think they had 14 in the first half.
Yeah.
So that is a problem, which is actually hard to do if you're also going to be down by 21 or whatever they were down by at half.
So their first and second shot defense is really good, I guess. But that is you can't allow that. It's rebounding. I think is maybe my biggest concern with the bigs, which is it's just not there yet.
My concern
I
is
don't
that
have any other concerns.
My
I
concern
don't
is
have
that
any other
Kansas
concerns.
won't play exactly that well every game moving forward.
That's the thing. It's like, oh no, now they made me super happy, and they're like, this is how basketball is supposed to be played, and then we're not going to see it again.
2 team in the country, and Lipsy, Jefferson, and Momcilovic, the three-headed monster, combined for just 28% from the field. Lipsy was 4 of 15. Jefferson was 4 of 14. He was awful in this game. He had 5 turnovers, and Momcilovic was 3 of 9. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when he's not out there, Iowa State's just a different offense. And the fact is, Kansas did a great job on all 3 of those guys. You know, you're going to take the possessions where Lipsy shoots threes. He shoots 32%. It's just not what he does best. He's a good rebounding guard. Obviously, he scores in the mid-range. He scores in the paint. And Jefferson is such a good passer. But again, if Momcilovic isn't out there being a big factor, then Iowa State's just not as good. And I think that's a legitimate concern on their end. But you got to give Kansas credit, man. It was all about the intensity. And how do you not, just again, to shout out Bill Self again, how do you not look at the results of this game and think, how about the coaching? Because not only from a statistical standpoint with what I just gave for those 3 for Iowa State, just from a motivation standpoint, Kansas, the back against the wall type performance that you need, guys completely answered the call. That is coaching. He challenged them. He had the message after the West Virginia game. These guys are on the court. They're competing every possession. And it just was so nice seeing the fluidity on both sides, particularly on offense, like you said, with Peterson being out there. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it in front of our eyes. Now, how do you bottle it? Again, you're not going to shoot 50% from 3 every game moving forward, but you can bottle certain things. Certain things are sustainable. And I'm excited to see the guys come out on Friday and a weird Friday night game.
It is weird,
but
I mean, at least we're gonna have a full weekend.
Do you think
right?
they scheduled it on Friday because Darryn Peterson's birthday is on Saturday and they wanted to give him the day off?
Ooh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. By the way,
Fox
happy
picked
early
up the game
birthday.
and they wanted it for Friday. So
Happy early
7
birthday.
p.m. on Fox. You can hear coverage beginning at 5:30 on the Jayhawk Radio Network with the Crimson Blue Show.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. Yeah, I don't have any other concerns. Rebounding, sure, but it's not really it's not huge. It's that if the game is, that's the question. So answer the question. That's I guess the biggest concern, and it's not a big concern. It's a little bit. It's like okay,
it's fair. Looking at the body
don't
of
give
work.
up 17 offensive rebounds.
Looking at the body of work in Big 12 play, it's fair to be concerned. About
Exactly.
That.
Piper wants to know.
I saw this. Caitlin said she saw this on socials.
Yeah, this is my fiance saw this on Instagram and. She decided to put this in the K mailbag. So she says, would you rather wake up and you're bald, but your hair grows back throughout the day? Or would you rather start the day with hair and get balder as the day goes on?
Would anybody pick the second? I guess it depends on...
See, I'm not a morning person.
That's true.
So
That's true. I mean,
when in the mornings, I try to avoid people.
Yeah. So you want to start bald and then get more hair as the day goes on.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer, right? Elijah, do you have a thought on this? I mean, would you rather, because if you start the day with hair.
You start with hair and then you continue to get balder throughout the day to where you're completely bald. At what point in the day are you 100% bald?
I guess
is it 6 p.m.?
It becomes,
is it midnight?
What's the most important time of the day, or what time of day is it most important that you have hair for each individual
person?
person?
Evenings.
Yeah?
It's got to be evenings, right?
And you want hair in evenings?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm picking the first, where you're bald in the morning, but your hair grows back throughout the day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's
now. Is there a
fair.
point where it's a hard reset? Because imagine you're out at a bar.
11:34.
Yeah. No. You're out at a bar or somewhere. You got your hair's flowing in the breeze. All of a sudden, midnight strikes. It's just
bam,
gone.
You're bald. Right.
Just immediately, everyone's like, "Whoa, what?
Bald is beautiful, man." Shout out to Jay Billis, by the way. Got a photo with him last night. He was on the call. He and Dan Schulman, 2 of the best in the biz. Appreciate that question. Piper, Josh wants to know, is the Big 12 for real or is it fake?
It is for real. The Big 12 is for real.
Yes.
We talked about this, and we broke it down yesterday.
Yes. You did forget about how unbelievable the SEC was last year. Briefly.
I know.
Briefly
I did.
forgot about
I know.
that.
They were so good. But I still think in terms of if you look at it over the last 5 years, 10 years even, I still think the Big 12 is the best basketball conference without a doubt. since Houston has come in too. I mean, that's just makes it that much better. Arizona obviously makes it a lot better. BYU obviously. So a lot of really good basketball teams in the Big 12
Did we get
right
the
now.
super glue on the Hall of Famer?
Yeah, did you
I'm
not
just
notice
seeing
this?
that. Nice.
I,
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, so the Bill Self bobblehead broke, and I got some super glue.
No, I appreciate
I
that.
brought it
That's,
in.
as you know, very important. to
Yeah,
me.
I know. Yeah,
That's like my biggest contribution to this little.
yeah. Most of the stuff is mine, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for
I have
I don't even know
I have
some
a
of the
lot of
stuff.
junk.
Some of the stuff in front of me, I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
But the Salvi thing is mine. This FS Kansas City thing. What is that?
It's a goat statue.
So we got two Bill Selfs on there.
Yeah, two.
Is it?
Two?
Oh my gosh.
Two goats.
The
yeah.
Pasquantino one we have somewhere. Occasionally we filter.
I dropped my goat.
Nice.
Anyway,
Shout out Henry
yes, the
Greenstein,
Big 12 is
Pasquantino.
for real. It's middle heavy, like Bill Self said. Just it's the best. It is the best. You will not convince me otherwise that it's not the best basketball conference in America.
I don't
Thank
think
you,
it's
Elijah.
I don't think it's a
I
difficult.
hope one of these cameras got Elijah crawling on the ground and pick that up.
I don't think that's a difficult thing to sell, Dan,
no.
with the 1 and 2 teams in the country. Brian wants to know, where will John Harbaugh end up? I'm going Pittsburgh. He's going to Pittsburgh.
So Brian did also. There was another part of this, and I don't know if it'll happen, but Brian did say, "Is there a world where we see John Harbaugh with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin with the Raiders? Just the old flipperoo, double reverse revenge game. Double revenge game twice a year would be so electric."
Did you see that Uno came out and said you can't officially play a draw
that's
2
insane.
on top of another draw 2?
That's insane.
People have been doing that for years.
Yeah, that's not.
So, yeah, I don't like that. I
That's
guess-
unbelievable.
Anyway, yeah, double revenge game.
John Harbaugh did just have a meeting with the New York Giants.
Yeah, I mean, he's going somewhere. I could see him. I could see him in the city that never sleeps.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, how old is he? He's got to be.
He's one of those guys who's probably older than he looks because he's just a, he's a
63.
good-looking guy. Oh, my God. I definitely wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but he was the coach back in the day. I mean, he's been there forever, man. I mean, he's just been there for so long. So, I mean, that makes a little bit of sense. Just retire. I mean, he's a Harbaugh, and he's got a little bit of that psychopath in him that Jim has in him. So it's going to be hard for him to do that, but I don't know if he'll retire. I know like I said, he had the meeting with the New York Giants. Do the Steelers, because the Steelers, so Mike Tomlin stepped away from the Steelers. So the interesting thing about this and the way that his contract works is the Steelers still own his rights. So he can't just up and take another job. They have to trade for him.
I always think that's the weirdest thing when coaches get traded.
Yeah, it is a very strange, like Mike Tomlin can't just be out there being like, yeah, I want this job, and then they hire him away. It's like, no, it has to go through the Steelers still, even though he walked away from the job. So it is fascinating. So people are saying how, maybe the Steelers can trade away Mike Tomlin to the Raiders for the number 1 pick, and then they go ahead and hire Curt Cignetti, and they draft Fernando Mendoza. That's just, it's blasphemous. And the Raiders would never do that. But the Raiders are looking for a new head coach. Thoughts on the NFL coaching cycle, though? I mean, there's 9 open spots right now.
It's too many for me to even wrap my head around, honestly.
Man, that's a lot. And a lot of weird, it's a lot of weird ones. Like I said, it's hard to imagine a world where the Ravens and the Steelers don't have a head coach. This is the 5th time in the last 60 years that the Steelers have been looking for a head coach?
Oh, my God, it's insane. Yeah, they've had 3
Cowher's
coaches
been there
since
forever.
69, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Cowher was there forever. Tomlin's been
That's
there
almost
forever.
KU level stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So it's weird to live in that world where you're like, oh, the Steelers are looking for a head coach. But also, when you look at it for the Steelers, I think of that probably as like an Andy Reid, Philadelphia kind of thing, where it's like, it's just good to kind of like a fresh start for both.
19 years as an NFL head coach in the same spot is a long time.
It's a fresh start for both. Tom will go somewhere, have some success, like Andy Reid did with Kansas City, and then Steelers will hire their guy. They'll have some success, like the Eagles did with, Doug Peterson, and then Nick Sirianni. So
Cody says, what is something you're way too old to still be bad at? Well, I know what it is for you.
Handwriting.
Driving.
I'm a good driver. I'm an okay driver. I'm bad. I have bad handwriting.
I actually have good handwriting.
That's the thing. Like I'm way too old to write.
I feel like that
do.
matches up our personalities.
Yeah.
Like anybody who listens to the show would, if you had to guess which one of us has good handwriting and
You
which
have
has
way better. Yeah. You do have good handwriting.
But
Mine's awful.
yeah,
It's like chicken scratch.
yeah,
It's embarrassing for a almost 28-year-old to be writing like that.
that's all right. A lot of people. I don't know what else. I'm gonna think on that because I can come up with some. I mean, there's a lot.
Mine's
that I'm
definitely
too old to be
handwriting.
bad at.
That's the first one that comes to the top of my mind.
Luke says, "How much money would you need to change your first name to Beans?"
Mm.
Beans Courtright. I mean, I'd want to be set up for success for a while, but it doesn't need to be a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot I wouldn't do for
Like maybe an additional
50,000.
50,000.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that's only. I mean, well, how long are you gonna live till?
I don't know. 40.
40. Okay, so 50,000 would be 50 divided by 12. Okay, so you're getting what, 4,000 extra a year?
I guess that's not great, huh?
4,200.
Yeah, but I can invest it.
Yeah,
I actually don't know how that
I mean, if
even
you live
works.
until you're 50, then that's I don't know.
That's true.
That's
I don't know.
a good nickname.
It's a good name. James says, any thoughts on DP moving to the 2 or 3 and letting Melvin take up the ball? Would that be the answer to continue playing like this for the rest of the season? Yes.
Hey, if you ask the two-time national champion, whoever gets it goes.
Right.
Okay, you get out in transition.
I mean, what did we see a lot of? We saw a lot of Melvin at the top, Darryn in the corner, garnering attention away from the middle, and we saw a lot of dribble drives, a lot of dishes. I think that's the way to do it, man. Darryn has excellent ball handling skills. He's got excellent facilitating skills. But I think that if you want KU to continue to play the way that they did last night, I think you move Darryn to the 2 spot and you have Melvin take up the ball.
Yeah,
Henry brought it up
I
last
don't know
segment.
that I necessarily have a preference. I mean, both of them.
Sure.
I get it. Absolutely. Get Melvin to where he's comfortable enough to play as he did without DP, which is still in attack mode, and still, running the offense. But yeah, I mean, I think there are times that you're going to see both guys with the ball in their hands. Last one comes from Henry. What is the strangest sporting event you've ever attended?
I got a good one. I went to a wiener dog race one time.
So yeah, that's gonna be way better than anything I got.
It was really cool. It was fun. It was like a St. Louis like Oktoberfest. It was awesome. Wiener dog race.
Man, I mean, I've been to. I'm trying to think. I don't have a ton of weird stuff.
You been like I don't know.
I've been to like a rodeo.
So I've never been to a rodeo.
I did go to a Kansas City Blades game.
Ooh.
You ever remember them? They're in
Yeah.
the International Hockey League.
I've heard of them.
I was like 10 or something.
Sure.
I don't remember. KC
What about,
Blades,
I mean,
shout outs.
you've been like a demolition derby?
I don't think so.
Like a monster truck rally?
I don't think so. I did go to a Weird Al concert, if that counts. I mean, that's got to be up there as a strange.
Yeah.
strange
I watched
event.
Stomp in concert one time. That's
Yeah.
a lot of active movement. That's so great.
I was also like 10 when that happened, strangely enough.
That is weird. So you never, like WWE, you never went to like a wrestling? I went one time.
You know
It
what?
was awesome.
I'm trying to think if I did go to Wrestling Live because you and I were both huge
Yeah,
WWF,
big time.
WCW
I went to one in
fans.
Topeka. It was awesome. I saw
don't know
John
if I
Cena and
actually went.
Edge fight.
Edge. God, shout out.
Sweet.
I've got so many action figures. Believe it or not, my 2-year-old daughter is not getting into the action figures that I thought she would love.
Are you
What is
kidding
that
me?
about?
That's
Sorry, all in due time.
insane.
Appreciate everybody chiming in on our KU mailbag segment. After this, we're going back to the podium. Bill Self, after a blowout victory over number 2 Iowa State last night, it was 84-63. We'll hear from the Hall of Famer after this on ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. Well, welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, ESPN Kansas City. Going to hear from Bill Self post-game, a victorious night on Naismith Drive. Dan, Crown Automotive sponsoring this post-game press conference.
Yeah, New Year's brings new deals at Crown Volkswagen of Lawrence. You can get the $6,000 off remaining 2025 Tiguan and Taos models in stock. Come experience the Crown difference. Crown Volkswagen. Visit crownmotorsvw.com.
CrownAutomotive.com as well. Volkswagen, Toyota, all sorts of options. They also have great selection of used cars as well. Miles Schneer and the great staff over at Crown, great partners of us here at Kansas Nation. Bill Self, post-game, KU's drubbing of Iowa State.
Coach, I think you guys got it by 26 and they cut it to 11. You guys distanced yourselves again. Just toughness and intensity and everything. What do you think about your team tonight?
Well, I thought the intensity was great. I didn't, I hope we showed some toughness, but we didn't come out and start the second half like we should have. But other than that 7 minutes and start the second half, I thought we played pretty well the whole time, and we shared it for the most part and was aggressive, and our defense was well above what it has been, even though we still didn't rebound it great. But I thought our intensity level was at a different level than it's been any time this year.
Yeah, I know it's early in the conversation, but potentially how big can this win be moving forward if you continue to build and stack?
Well, it's going to be really important if we continue to build and stack. If it's in nuts or candy, or if it's in butts or candy and nuts, we'd all have a better Christmas too, I guess. But I think it was a must-needed win. So.
From this performance, what are the sustainable things you feel like your group can continue to do and repeat game over game?
I thought we made less mental mistakes defensively. I actually thought our intensity level was better. The play of the game was Marco getting that 20-80 ball. Instead of giving up 2 points, it ended up being 3 points. Sure, that's the best play in the game. Maybe the best play we've had this season. So I thought we shortened the rotation, obviously, and I think that helped us tonight because guys got rhythm. Mari got a rhythm, and I don't know that we did. That's a good question. I would say the one thing that comes to mind more than anything else, we were aggressive with Darryn in the game, and that's the first time that's happened this year.
And there were several instances of guys diving on the floor for loose balls. You mentioned on Marco there. Is that the type of energy you're talking about for those?
Oh yeah. That was on the board before the game. You go over things, and I put get on the floor, then something else, and get on the floor, then something else, and get on the floor, then something else, and get on the floor, trying to prove a point about basketball is a game of 50-50 balls. If you get majority of them, you have a better chance to win. And I don't know what the numbers were, but I think we were much better in that area.
I think it was Darryn that said you talked about that play in the locker room after.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say about it?
It's the best play anybody's made this year, and he didn't get 2 points out of it. So if you guys remember last year, we had a similar play against them when Juan dove, and then I think Flory dove, and then Diggy threw the lob to KJ. A very similar type play in the game last year. That was the best play of that game for sure.
And does that get addressed during the game? Or was it timeout and you guys had a moment?
Oh, did I say something?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was in a better mood coaching tonight because I thought the guys tried so hard.
Coach, how impactful do you think Flory was for you guys on the defensive end and forcing Iowa State into some offensive struggles, turnovers, blocking shots?
The first half, does anybody know how many block shots we had the first half? 4? When we had 7 steals? I think it said, I think we did. I could be wrong. So you add those together, that's 11.
You had 7 steals, 4 blocks.
That's 11 and a half when we haven't been averaging 11 in a game for the year. So to me, and a large part of that is obviously Flory. So I thought Flory did a great job, obviously protecting the basket.
Just one more thing about Marco's play. That started with him getting stripped, if I remember correctly. So
yeah, made a terrible play. Yeah. They took it from him, and then went and got it back.
So does that add to that all the more for you, like that it was a moment of?
Yeah, well, it's the reason he got stripped was what we talk about all the time. So he turned an obvious negative into the biggest positive of the night. So, but that's the way it should be. You know, guy misses a block, well, you still got to figure out a way to make a play. You know, and he did that at that moment.
And just one other thing is just ultimately, is this game a good visual for them to see what their ceiling is for the guys?
I do think, and to I think Shay's point, you said it so much more eloquently than what. But I do think the fact that we needed to see something good happen with all our players out there playing together, because we haven't had that yet, and so I thought that was really important.
Bill, I think you talked about them being a little more aggressive with Darryn out there. Overall, how did you feel like they played together with Darryn? I know that's been.
I thought we played great. You know, Iowa State pressured, and so they denied Darryn a lot. So all that did was, you know, put the ball in Melvin's hands and go get downhill. So, but everybody was doing. Marco got downhill the first half. How many times, Mari, if I'm not mistaken, got 5 assists the first half, and how many of those was driving at baseline or back cuts or that kind of? We were just more aggressive as a total unit.
Bill, when you put it together in the off season and you get them in the preseason and you start to picture, okay, here's how this fits. I mean, is this kind of what you envisioned when you know, before you started playing games?
This is more what I had envisioned. I still don't think we run our stuff. I still don't think we're an execution team. I still don't think there's a lot of things we don't do well. But if you play turned up, you know, you look twice as athletic as you do as when you don't. And we looked athletic tonight, and you know, we've got an elite player. We got an elite scorer. And even tonight, you could see when he went to get his own, he can do some things different than anybody else can do. But the thing about it is, our other guys are good players. We don't need to defer to playing just to him. But we also need to take advantage of him. And I don't think we have found that balance yet, but tonight was the closest thing to it.
And then just being able to execute a game plan, maybe how difficult has that been recently, and what did you see tonight?
Well, you know, Darryn still hadn't finished a game this season. You know, he was closer tonight. You know, he made it to the 5-minute mark or whatever, but he still has, or 6-minute mark, but he still hadn't finished a game. I actually, I think we're so much closer, but it is a challenge for the guys to play to him, and this is what we want, and we're going to play to him, and then you change how you play and how you think when one person's in the game, and I don't think that's how you coach. I think you coach a style and you play to the style regardless of who's in the game, and we just haven't been doing that as much. So hopefully it'll be a positive force. But the bottom line is we need everybody for us to have a chance to have the best team that we can. But everybody needs to understand that different guys have skill sets, and I just think we played to our skill set far better tonight than what we have been.
Could he have finished tonight?
He told me I can go if you really need me, which tells me no. But was it bad, CJ? No, it wasn't bad. He was like, if you don't need me out there, I'm not moving as good as I was earlier. Let somebody else finish it off. So it wasn't a bad, I'm cramping, I got to come out. It was more like, I'm not quite whole right now, you know.
When you recruited Trey, did you envision him shooting it as prolifically as he has?
No.
What did you make of tonight?
I thought he shot it unbelievably well. I think the ball with Trey sometimes sticks, but I think how many threes he made tonight? 5, and he got a 3-point foul too. So we thought he was a great corner 3 shooter, but we didn't know he would shoot it consistently like he has so far.
What did you think of the ball coming through time and again?
I thought he was, he made 2 big ones and then hit the floater on the baseline and got big offensive rebounds, and he had 6 dimes and no turnovers. I mean, he had a perfect stat line for a guy off the bench.
After West Virginia being 1 and 2, what was the main message to the team all week and before the game tonight?
Well, all week it's only been 1 practice, so because of Sunday really wasn't a day. I think we screwed it up. How are we going to unscrew it? Basically, maybe I didn't use those words exactly, but I think the whole thing is hey, this is the situation, and there's a lot of season left, and I use the football analogy too about there's time to catch up, but we have dug ourselves a situation where we don't have much more time to wait. The margin for error is less and less as we move forward.
Trey mentioned that the players got together. Did you encourage that, or was that on their own? They had a meeting.
They may have. I have no idea. Which is, if they had a players-only meeting, the coaches should know. But I had no idea. So they should meet more often.
Bill, Iowa State's big three of Lipsy, Momcilovic, and Jefferson combined for just 28% tonight. What was the key to keeping them off balance and uncomfortable all throughout?
Well, we were fortunate that they did miss some looks that wasn't caused by defense. But I thought we did a good job of challenging Jefferson in tight. And I thought that for the most part, Milan, I think we did a good job of being there on the catch, and he still made how many threes? 3 or 4? I don't even know. But we limited his good looks, and then Lipsy, he got downhill to start the second half. But other than start the second half, I thought we did a good job for the most part keeping him out of the paint. For the most part, not totally.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys.
That's Bill Self post-game. He's now 5-0 against AP top 2 opponents in Allen Fieldhouse. Incredible stat, one of many incredible stats for the 2-time national champion in his tenure here at KU. After this, we're actually going to go behind enemy lines. We're going to hear from Milan Momcilovic as well as TJ Otzelberger as they pay a lot of respect to Kansas and the performance in KU's 21-point blowout win over Iowa State last night. Plus, we're going to give some college basketball game picks. Big 12 games. There's 5 of them tonight. That's next on Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City, and KansasNation.com. Here at Kansas Nation, we are proudly partnering up with Game Day Men's Health. Lawrence, Dan, tell us a little bit about Game Day.
I would love to. Game Day Men's Health here in Lawrence is here to get you back in the game. Nobody likes going to the doctor. Obviously, it's, it can feel uncomfortable. There's white coat phobia, which is a real thing. Guys like to push things off until the very end. But if you're not feeling like yourself, go get yourselves checked out at Game Day Men's Health. First visit, completely complimentary, 100% free. They'll take your blood, make sure everything's working. If it's working, great. That's awesome. That's all that they care about. If it's not, they'll do everything in their power to make sure that you get the help that you need to get you back in the game. Game Day Men's Health here in Lawrence.
Shout out to Mitch Bales and his team over there. Appreciate that partnership. Let's go back to the podium after last night. KU 84-63 over Iowa State. TJ Otzelberger of Iowa State as well as Milan Momcilovic were at the podium post-game, paying a lot of respect to KU in that performance.
First off, hats off to Kansas, to Coach Self, to their players, their program. They were extremely well prepared and well coached like we knew they would be. Extremely urgent to come out and play with a tremendous spirit, which they did. So credit to them. There's not a coach in a program we have more respect for. And that was an absolute beatdown tonight from the start, in their favor, unfortunately. So a lot for us to learn from and continue to move forward. But all the credit tonight goes to Kansas, to Coach Self and their players for taking it to us.
Coach, knowing that KU is coming home 1-2, did you expect to get backs up against the wall? Did you kind of expect to get what you got tonight? Not the result, but just them coming out the way they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a tremendous pride in this program. We know how well prepared they're going to be. We know how competitive they're going to be. And we know how much confidence they have, particularly in this building. And like I said, it's a credit to their coaches and players. You can tell they've been on the practice court working and really, getting ready. And they did a tremendous job. They deserve all the credit.
TJ, how were they able to spread you guys out and stress you defensively, especially in that first half?
Yeah, I think, we take pride in pressuring the ball and being aggressive and everything. And at some points, they used that pressure against us and kind of spaced the floor and opened up driving lanes. At some times, we could have probably been a little more disciplined guarding the basketball and a little more aggressive guarding the ball. And I think ultimately, they put us in some tough spots, and they were well prepared to attack certain things early. We weren't able to turn them over with our pick and roll coverages and some of the things defensively. I think, at half it may have been 12 assists, 2 turnovers. So for us, we take a lot of pride in turning our opponent over and scoring off our defense. And they kept coming at us and downhill and in the paint, and we couldn't keep them out of there. And then, they did a great job finishing and made timely shots as well.
Coach, you talk so much about winning the turnover battle, to turn it over, I think 6 times in your first 11 possessions. Just how frustrating is that to watch? And I guess how did Kansas manage to do that to you guys?
Well, I think the physicality on both sides, I think like the defensive physicality, guarding the dribble, getting into the basketball and pressuring the ball, we didn't have that mentality to how we did things. And then that carries over to the offensive side because we got sped up. We didn't finish through contact. We didn't keep our composure to play later in possessions and move the basketball. We appeared a little bit spooked and panicked, and the moment got us, and we weren't able to recover. And, we've got to do a better job how we start games on both ends. I think, again, it's happened the last few games, hadn't had the quickest start that we'd like and impose our will on the game. And I think that's on both sides of the basketball. So that's something we can certainly learn, work on, improve upon, and be better as we move forward.
Milan, I'll ask about that spooked and panicked. Is that a feeling that you felt out there today, and how do you feel like you maybe responded to that in the second half?
I thought we came out just more aggressive, more connected in the second half. I think we came out better in the second half than every game we've played. But I think we got to turn that to the first half and come out stronger because we just can't put ourselves in a hole like that, especially in this place. But proud of our guys that are fighting back, not quitting, but we got to be better than that today.
TJ, what did you think of your team's offensive shot selection and quality in the first half, and what did you guys do in the second half to open things up a little bit?
Well, I think ultimately it just seemed like we were a little bit rushed. So as a result, we were drawing the help defender, and then we either needed to finish through contact, play off 2 feet, or make the pass. And I think that feeling of being rushed caused us to just be sped up. We certainly took some early clock shots at times where they had momentum, where we could have used a longer possession and get the ball in the paint, re-attack the paint, and that sort of thing. So that's not something that's been an issue for us all year. I feel like our ability to share the ball and get great shots has been a consistent theme of why we've done what we've done to this point. So I think more than anything, it was that feeling of guys wanting to step up or make plays because they could feel that it wasn't going the way we wanted. And in doing so, at times, we just got a little bit sped up, a little bit rushed, and pushed into a shot that probably wasn't best for that possession.
It seemed like you guys struggled to move them side to side with the pass in the first half. Did you feel like that was their defense, or you guys being a little impatient?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, they obviously had a really good game plan coming in. They protected the paint really well, and Badunga is a really good 5-man, affected a lot of shots down there. So give a lot of credit to him, but I think we just got to move it a little bit more, get in the late shot clock, and just get a better shot at the end of the day. What he said, we were a little rushed offensively, and then everyone tried to make plays, but I think we'll be fine, and our offense will be fine.
Milan, you mentioned Flory Badunga in there and how well he played defensively. How difficult does he make it for you guys on a night like tonight?
Man, very difficult. I'm not sure what his wingspan is, but 7 foot plus. He affected a lot of shots, had 4 blocked shots, so every time we get down there, I think we just got to be better playing off 2 because we know he's coming to block it or just pump fake, try to get a foul on him. So I thought he affected the game a lot tonight.
Last question.
Milan, your first time playing in Allen Fieldhouse, what did you think of the environment tonight, the atmosphere, just your perspective?
Great environment. It's probably one of the best I've ever been in. This and Mackey Arena, 2 best I've played in. I think the students make it really good, and it's a really fun atmosphere to play in.
Thanks, everyone.
A lot of respect handed to Coach Self and the KU program there from TJ Otzelberger and Milan Momcilovic. Great night last night in Allen Fieldhouse. That's going to do it for Rock Chalk Sports tonight. Big shout out to Elijah Schmidt running the operations as usual. For Dan Courtwright, Sean Kellerman saying we'll catch you tomorrow from 4 to 6, ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com.